Like most people, I tend to judge TikToks within a second or two. Usually it's the rapid-fire, all guns blazing clips that catch my attention, silly sketches, OTT influencers, and the like. But this video stood out for the opposite reason. The audio was silent and the image didn't really move at first. It was shot from the POV of someone sitting up in bed and showed the bottom of a bed frame, a TV stand, a flat screen, and a lamp. It was totally unremarkable except it was filmed in my bedroom. I was looking at my bed, my TV stand, my lamp. At first, I thought my boyfriend had posted it. Maybe by accident, as it was so boring. But the account username was different, a meaningless stream of numbers that looked like one of those auto-generated passwords, and there was no profile picture. Obviously I freaked out. It felt so intrusive. I tried to think of the last time we had people around, when someone could have done this, and who would want to. The video was still playing as I processed these thoughts, and I noticed that the audio wasn't actually silent, so I turned the volume up. I couldn't hear much at first, but when I strained my ears I picked up the sound of someone breathing. It wasn't performative, quite the opposite. It was as if the person recording the video was trying to be quiet. It sounded a bit like a man, but I couldn't be sure. I stood up, and as I did, the perspective of the video shifted. The camera panned from the TV stand to my dresser, which was propped against the bedroom wall. The camera bobbed up and down, in time with the person's breathing, and the footage blurred slightly. Eventually, the image came into focus. I stopped breathing. I could see my makeup scattered across the surface of the dresser, a small square of light from our bedroom window, and the radiator running along the wall. There were 3 bits of laundry hanging off the radiator, one of my bras, a pair of Mike's pants, and an old, ratty t-shirt I slept in. Unremarkable, normal, yet truly terrifying. Because I'd held those clothes in my hand that very morning. I'd draped them on the radiator less than 2 hours ago. And then I saw it, a small pink button in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. It contained a single word, live. I must have held my breath for a full minute. All of my energy, every fiber of my being was focused on listening, straining to hear movement coming from upstairs. Our flat is small, 3 rooms downstairs and 2 on the second floor. I was lying on the sofa in our living room, which has a view of the staircase. If the intruder moved I would hear them. I glanced at the video again. The footage was still, almost like a photograph. A bird flew past our bedroom window and I almost screamed at the sudden movement. The person holding the phone didn't flinch. I told myself that the footage could have been taken that morning, and if so, it was most likely Mike's doing. He probably launched a new account. The idea that someone was upstairs seemed impossible. I'd been working in the downstairs office all morning, so I would have seen someone come in. All of the windows upstairs were closed, and if the intruder had broken one of them I would have heard it. This calmed me slightly, but I was still terrified. I needed to know for sure if the footage was live or not. I looked around the room for something that'd make a noise loud enough to be picked up by the microphone upstairs. I thought about dropping a heavy book on the floor or even calling out, but eventually decided that playing some music would be a better idea. Slowly I stood up and walked over to our record player. I felt incredibly weak and shaky and almost dropped the record whilst removing it from its sleeve. The footage didn't change. With shaking hands I pressed the play button and retreated into the far corner of the room. The music started off slow, but almost immediately I could hear it, a horrible tinny echo being picked up on the intruder's phone and replayed through my speaker. Without thinking I ran across the room and turned the record player off. Even now I don't know why I did this. I think the horrible echo was just too much. The house was deadly silent after that. I looked at my phone. My hand was shaking and I was struggling to focus on the video. I almost screamed when I saw that the intruder was on the move. The camera swung from the dresser to the doorframe and appeared to zoom in. It took me a moment to realize that whoever was recording was walking towards the landing. I was crying now, and my chest was jerking up and down as I tried to control my breathing. I tried to think clearly, but one thought pushed all others aside. There's someone in the house, there's someone in the house, there's someone in the house. I probably should have closed the app and called the police, or Mike, or just ran for the front door, but I couldn't tear myself away from the feed. Almost without thinking I called out, "What do you want?" My voice was horribly loud and broken. The intruder stopped. I pressed myself against the wall and inched towards the hallway, horribly aware that my bare feet were squeaking on the wooden floorboards. I was staring at my phone the entire time. As I reached the carpeted hallway, I saw the intruder moving again. Whoever it was, took one step forward and then another. He or she was right above me now, at the top of the stairs. I clamped my hand over my mouth to muffle my sobs and block a scream. I crept forward, and the intruder followed suit, descending one stair at a time. I was very close to the front door now, only 5 or 6 feet away, but I was terrified that if I ran or made a sudden movement, the intruder would rush down the stairs and grab me. Our front door was double locked, and if I fumbled the key I would be caught. So I stood in silence for a moment. I looked at my phone. The picture was frozen again. For a second I thought it had glitched or that the video had been paused. And then I heard a noise, a sound I'll never forget as long as I live. It was a hollow sound, musical almost, which reminded me of someone running a wand along a xylophone. It took me a moment to place it. Someone, whoever was up there, was running a finger along the banisters. I screamed. I didn't know I was capable of making such a sound. It filled the narrow corridor and seemed to swallow me whole. I felt it pushing against the roof of my mouth, tearing at my throat. The shock of the scream broke my trance. I surged forward and grabbed at the door, jerking the key to the right and yanking at the latch. I fell out into the street. I didn't look behind me, just ran, to the end of my road, around the corner and towards the station. Several people stared at me, some with concern, but I didn't stop. I focused on getting as far away as possible. Eventually, when my lungs burned and my kidneys ached, I collapsed into the doorway of the local library. I stumbled inside and followed the signs for the public toilet. When I was safely locked inside a cubicle, I looked at my phone again. It was clammy with my sweat and tears. I'd accidentally swiped away from the video and realized that I didn't have the strength to reopen TikTok. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I leaned against the cubicle door and sobbed for at least 5 minutes, maybe longer. Then I called the police and after that, Mike. I didn't return to the house until the police were on site. When I arrived, Mike was waiting. He put an arm around me and we walked into the flat together. Foolishly, I'd expected the police to have sent a SWAT team, but there were only 2 officers sitting in our living room. They told me that no one had been in the property when they'd arrived, but that they believed my story and would investigate. I tried to show them the video, but it was gone, along with the user profile. Mike and I stayed in a hotel that night while the police dusted our flat for prints. They didn't find any, nor did they find any footprints or DNA. I was starting to think the whole thing was a hallucination until one of the officers made an observation. There's a small door in our bedroom that leads into the eaves. It had been open when they arrived. Turns out this passage leads directly to a similar door in our neighbor's flat. This was also open when the police found it. Our neighbors were on holiday the day I discovered the video and there was no sign of a break-in. To this day, we don't know how the intruder got into our neighbor's property. Our landlord has agreed to build a wall to subdivide the eaves, but I don't think we'll be returning to our flat anytime soon. I contacted TikTok to try and find out who posted the video, but they told me they wouldn't be able to help without a username, which I don't remember. I've since deleted the app.